Joe Satriani is using a sneaky trick in the speed licks that he's playing on screen right now. Can you guess what it is? The shred lines sound creative, blisteringly fast, and effortless all at the same time. But how does he do this? And how do we train our fingers to move that fast? I wanted to find out, so I broke down and analyzed dozens of Joe Satriani's shreddier solos, and I discovered some sneaky tricks, and I've already had some pretty awesome results using them. Using these techniques could be the game changer that you've been waiting for. One of them has been a game changer for me, at least in terms of speed, and it might be for you too. So if you stick around to the end of this video, you are going to learn exactly how Joe Satriani's shredding works, how to progress as quickly and as easily as possible in this style, and how to use it to play, write, and improvise better rock guitar solos. I've organized everything into 5 simple stepping stone licks. These 5 licks make it so simple that even beginners can make really fast progress with them, and each lick adds a layer of complexity until we reach that Joe Satriani level. So grab your guitar now and let's get started. Lick 1. Joe Satriani's faster lines use hammer-ons and pull-offs a lot. And if you don't know, this style of playing is known as legato. In the main pattern from lick 1, we have these 3 notes. And the pattern repeats every 4 notes like this. Wait, I'll play with a metronome. So at 80 beats per minute with a metronome, it'll sound like this. With the metronome a little bit faster, it'll sound like this. And with the metronome super duper fast, it'll sound like this. So that's playing 4 notes to a beat, or otherwise known as 16th notes. Just for fun, start at 80 beats per minute, just keep adding 5 beats per minute at a time, see how fast you can get, and let me know in the comments below how you did. In the actual lick, I use a lot of note divisions to turn this simple exercise, or this simple idea, into something a little bit more musical. And that is one of the tricks that Joe Satriani uses in his solos. But I'm pretty sure I've also noticed Joe Satriani playing on just more than one string, so for that, we're going to move on to lick 2. So the easiest way to change strings when doing hammer and pull-off style licks is to pick the first note from the next new string. So what do I mean? You pick first, hammer on, and then you pick the next string before you hammer on again. So we have this: pick, hammer, hammer, 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 and so on. And on the way down, we got pick and 2 pull-offs. Pick, pull-off, pull-off, pick, pull-off, pull-off. You get it. But for an extra challenge, you might try doing the signature Joe Satriani mute, where you gently grip the neck here so that you're muting these strings underneath, and then you can hammer from nowhere like this. And on the way down as well. And again, you can also just push the speed on this and see how fast you can go. This is a simple D major 3-note per string shape.
But Doug, the backing track's in G. Why are you playing in D?
If we play a major scale shape in D, but we're playing over a G, we get the Lydian mode. Now, if you're new to modes, don't worry, I'll cover that in another video because it's a very, very big topic. What you need to know for now is that Joe Satriani uses a lot of modes in his solos and in his songs. So taking inspiration from that, particularly Flying in a Blue Dream, this backing track and all the solos and stuff in this lesson will be in the Lydian mode. And by the way, you can get this backing track and all the tabs free by following the link in the description below. So once again, I changed the note division in this lick. I played the shape once and then played it again, basically at double the speed. It's time to take another step towards the Joe Satriani style with odd note groupings. For a long time, I used to be intimidated by any lick which had an odd grouping of notes like 5, 7, 9, or even 11. But mastering this will actually give you a whole new layer of musicality to your playing, as well as give a human feel even to your shred licks. Rather than 16th notes or 4 notes to a beat, we now have quintuplets. Basically, it's 5 notes to a beat. To make this a bit easier, we can go back to lick 1, put on the metronome, and double the first note to get a group of 5. This will help us to get a grasp on what that group of 5 feels like before we add in that other layer of complexity where we're using a slide to move that position shift around. And you can go between just two positions like this. Notice how the top note of each shape always lands right on the beat. Now, it's normal to find this hard if you're new to note groupings, but keep coming back to it each day and you are gonna get it. In the meantime, let's look at the next element of the Joe Satriani style. This might sound difficult, but really what we've got is a combination of previous licks. This first group of 6 is just very similar to what we did in lick 2, and the second group of 5 is very similar to what we did in lick 3, because it's a group of 5. To make it even easier, we can break it into 2 parts with a metronome like this. Part 1. And part 2. And then put them together. And so on. So there's just one more technique that we have to look at before we're ready for a little bit of Joe Satriani style shred. See if you can spot what the technique is in this next lick. And the new technique, of course, is pick tapping. Joe Satriani loves this technique and uses it a lot. To do it, you just use the edge of your pick and you just tap right behind the fret. Where you put the fleshy part of your hand to mute the other strings is quite important. And you might want to practice this just starting off with trills if you've never done it before, so you might do something like this. So I'm just trilling with 16ths, that's like 2 taps to every metronome hit, like this. Then you can start to introduce the hammers and pull-offs later on. One thing to watch out with this lick is how you hold the pick when you're pick tapping and how you hold the pick when you're picking normally. If I just use this to show a little closer, see if my autofocus works. I'm normally gonna hold the pick like this, and then when I pick tap, I have to kind of grasp it like this, and then switch back. Doing that switch, you'll get used to it, but it takes some time. At least it did for me. You can actually get away with doing 1 or 2 picks, holding the pick like sideways, like weirdly. If you're in the middle of doing lots of pick tapping, and then you suddenly need to pick, you can just pick once with the side of the pick in a weird way. It kind of works for me anyway. And then once again in this lick, using lots of different note divisions, not only to create that color, but it's also a very good way to practice. You should be able to play any repeating pattern in pretty much any note division that you know. It's gonna help to really solidify that pattern under your fingers. Now let's put everything that we've been learning so far into a short but sweet Joe Satriani style shred solo. And then after this, I'll talk about how to build the speed. By the way, if you like this solo and these licks, you can grab the tabs and the backing track for free following the link in the description. I don't know if I already said that. Did I already say it? Anyway, there you go. So we still need to tackle these long, complex lines, like this one at the end of the solo. I still need to explain this game-changing approach to speed that I was talking about. If you have a keen eye, you may have noticed that this long lick at the end, we've basically already covered all of the component parts to it. Firstly, it's in the Lydian mode, so we're taking this part from lick 3 in 30-second notes, moving it 2 strings down and 2 strings towards the pickups. That basically moves it up 1 octave, so it's exactly the same group of notes. Again. And then this time, 2 strings that way, 3 frets that way towards the pickups to get another octave. Up an octave. Up an octave. So rather than strictly treating this part here as a group of 9, I just want to sort of play slightly ahead of the grid such that my first pick tap lands right on the first beat of the next bar. Joe Satriani loves to come away from the grid, so this is just faithful to his style anyway. And then we have the familiar pick tapping played really high up. So we've got these 3 parts. Next. Next. And then we've got the same pick tapping pattern as before, but just really high up on the neck. And then at the end, we descend with the groups of 5. Except that we're using the pattern with the slides, only we're just playing them all as 30-second notes. So it kind of hides the pattern that we're using. Now when it comes to building the speed into this, I've actually been hinting at this technique as we've been going through this whole video. Typical way to build speed would be to start at a very slow tempo, to play the entire lick, and then try to incrementally increase that tempo, which is one approach, and if you're just starting out, this is actually a very good approach. It would mean though that you are spending a lot of your practice session playing like this. And so on. And there's nothing wrong with that if you're just getting started. But once you start to plateau, what you really need to do is get the fast twitch muscle fibers going in your hand. And the way that you do that is you take very small chunks and speed them way up. So it's far more efficient to put some of your practice session aside for building speed in very, very short bursts like this. And then once I've got that, I can connect that to the next part. So every single little section, every single little bar, you do like short, controlled speed bursts like that. And that is a much more efficient way to get your hand to play fast. Over time, you'll be able to connect those pieces together. I'm also going to do another whole video just dedicated to this one concept because it's so important and so overlooked. Now, Joe Satriani's shred technique is awesome, but the shredding techniques I've been learning from this other G3 guitarist recently might just be even more better. So check out this deep dive next where I'll explain who he is, what these techniques are, and how they can make your guitar solos even more epic.